Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you bought something and thought, wow, that's actually gotten cheaper? Yeah. Me neither. Now here's what nobody told you. The taxes that have been quietly making everything more expensive? Courts are now saying they were illegal. The whole time. Billions collected. Years of higher prices on your groceries, your appliances, your phone. And the legal foundation holding all of it up is crumbling right now. But before you get excited, stay with me. Because what comes next isn't relief. It's something nobody's prepared for. Here's how we got here. Trump wanted to hit foreign countries with tariffs. Tax their goods coming into America. Protect domestic industry. But the Constitution gives that power to Congress, not the president. And getting Congress to agree on anything takes forever. Trump didn't want to wait, so his lawyers found a shortcut. A law called IEEPA. Emergency Powers Legislation, written so presidents could act fast during genuine national security crises. Freeze assets. Block hostile transactions. Real emergency stuff, but Trump's team looked at that law and asked, what if we just called the trade deficit an emergency? What if unfair trade practices are an emergency? What if we use this emergency law to bypass Congress completely and tax the entire world? And that's exactly what they did. No vote. No debate. No approval from anyone. The higher prices on your electronics, your steel, your car parts, raised through a legal maneuver that courts are now calling illegitimate, and the moment those courts make it official, a chain reaction starts that hits your life in ways you haven't been warned about. Imagine you've been paying a toll on your way to work every single day for 3 years, $10. Every morning. You adjusted your budget. Your employer adjusted salaries around it. The shops near the toll adjusted their prices because their suppliers pay it too. The entire local economy quietly absorbed that toll and moved on. Now someone tells you, the toll was illegal the whole time. Great, right? Toll disappears. Life gets cheaper, except your budget is already adjusted. Your employer isn't rushing to give you a raise just because one cost dropped. The shops already raised prices and they're not lowering them out of kindness. And the guy who built the illegal toll? He's already constructing a new one down the road with a different sign on it. That's exactly where America is right now. Here's the legal reality, and I'll make this as human as possible. The U.S. Constitution is not vague. Article 1 says Congress controls taxes and import duties. Not the president. That's been settled law for over 200 years. And IEEPA, the emergency law Trump used, doesn't mention tariffs anywhere. Not once. No mention of taxes. No mention of import duties. Nothing. Trump's lawyers argued that having power over trade implies the power to tax trade. Courts looked at that argument and said, no. That's not how law works. There's a legal doctrine made for exactly this situation. The Major Questions Doctrine. It says, if the government claims some vague old law gives them enormous new economic power, courts should be deeply suspicious. And what Trump did wasn't small. He reshaped global trade through an emergency loophole. Courts are now saying, if Congress wanted the president to have that power, the law would say so. It doesn't. Then there's the thing that exposes the entire scheme: emergency powers are temporary by design. You declare an emergency, you act, you stabilize, you go back to normal. That's the agreement. But Trump's steel tariffs are still running. Aluminum tariffs, still running. China tariffs, still running. Years later. At what point does an emergency just become permanent policy with a convenient label? Because if the emergency never ends, it was never really an emergency. It was just a way to avoid asking permission, and here's the detail that ends the legal argument completely. In the entire 40-year history of IEEPA, through Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, not one president ever used it for tariffs. Not once. Every previous administration understood that this law was never meant for this. Trump was the first to try it. Courts are now the first to formally say, you went too far, so now the structure is cracking. And here's who actually gets hurt when it falls: businesses have been paying these tariffs for years. Technically they could claim refunds, tens of billions of dollars paid under a law courts are calling illegitimate. But that money is already spent. Getting it back means years of litigation. Most companies will quietly write it off and move on. The consumer are sitting there thinking prices will finally drop. Here's the honest truth. Prices don't work like a light switch. When tariffs made things more expensive, companies raised prices, locked in contracts, rebuilt their margins around the new reality. When tariffs disappear, those contracts don't dissolve overnight. Those margins don't shrink out of generosity. Prices will ease, eventually, slowly, only when competition forces it. The relief is real. But it's not the relief you're imagining. Then there are American manufacturers who genuinely loved these tariffs. Steel producers. Aluminum companies. They used the protection to raise prices and stop worrying about competing with cheaper foreign goods. If tariffs vanish, foreign steel floods back in. Those domestic producers, who spent years getting comfortable behind a government wall, suddenly have to compete again. Some won't survive. The very communities Trump said he was protecting take the hit, and the rest of the world is watching this in nervous silence. Canada, Mexico, China, they all retaliated. Tariffs on American soybeans. American pork. American agricultural products that built entire rural economies. If US tariffs fall, those could come off too. But only if America doesn't immediately replace the illegal tariffs with new ones. Which, and this is the part that should frighten you, is already happening: that uncertainty. Not knowing which tariffs survive, which get replaced, which are coming next week. That's what slowly kills global trade. Not high tariffs. Not low tariffs. Just, not knowing, and that not knowing is about to get much worse. Here's what most people expect to happen: courts rule the tariffs illegal. Tariffs vanish. Prices drop. Everyone moves on. Here's what's actually happening right now. The moment legal challenges started mounting, Trump's team didn't panic, they pivoted. They began rebuilding the same tariffs under completely different laws. Section 232, National Security. Section 301, Unfair Trade Practices. Section 201, Import Surges. Same taxes. Different legal wrapper. So even in the best-case scenario, courts strike down IEEPA tariffs, businesses file refunds, trade partners exhale, replacement tariffs are already in position. You won't notice the switch. Your prices won't change. The trade war doesn't end. It just gets new paperwork. And Congress, the institution and the Constitution actually gave this power to, could fix all of this today. They could vote to make the tariffs legitimate. They could vote to kill them. They could create real trade policy that doesn't depend on which emergency law gets stretched this week. They won't. Republicans won't cross Trump. Democrats won't risk looking weak. So Congress holds the constitutional authority to resolve this and does absolutely nothing with it, which means the prices in your life keep getting decided by emergency declarations, legal workarounds, and court battles, not by any coherent democratic process. Here's what you take from this: the tariffs might be legally dying. Your wallet isn't feeling it, the economic damage is already baked in. And the same taxes are being rebuilt under new legal names as we speak. The real story was never about trade. It was about who gets to make decisions that affect every price in your life, and whether anyone ever actually asked you. They didn't. Now you know. Share this with someone who's still wondering why everything costs more.